and good evening. I'm Melisa Idris. Welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. Tensions are growing between India and Pakistan after 26 tourists were shot and killed in an ambush in Pahalgam, the popular tourist destination in the Indian-administered region of Kashmir. Now, what does this latest attack and the reactions it provoked reveal about the fragility of peace in South Asia? Joining us on the line now from Lahore, Pakistan is Umair Jamal, who is a correspondent for the current affairs publication, The Diplomat. Umair, thank you so much for being on the show with me. This attack in Pahalgam and India's response to it, how is that currently being viewed within Pakistan? What are people saying in terms of both in terms of public discourse and also the government's official stance?
Thank you, Melissa, for having me. Good to be back on your show. So as far as the Indian, accusations are concerned and the attack itself, as anyone might expect, Pakistan has condemned it, not just condemned it, it's strongly condemned it and said that it wants, impartial investigation, transparent investigation into the attack. And it has gone to the extent of saying that we want justice for those killed in that attack. Similarly, Pakistan has been watching Indian response very closely and has tried to mirror it what India has said or done so far. So India basically, just minutes or hours after the attack, they blamed Pakistan, saying that those attackers, they belong to some militant groups which allegedly are based in Pakistan. Pakistan has responded saying that that's a lie and those groups are not based in Pakistan and that India should act with restraint, act with responsibility. And Pakistan has also sort of gone to its allies to explain its position, telling them very very openly that it has no role in it. And India's claims that since Pakistan sort of allegedly had certain behavior in which it could have supported some groups, that does not exist anymore. That's one important part that Pakistan has played so far. And in terms of media and public perception in Pakistan, there's a lot of skepticism about India's claims and accusations. People here are not ready to accept Pakistan is involved or that to sort of take India's allegation seriously. It's also it's part of the history in terms of Pakistan India's bilateral engagements and conflict over the last 6 decades. That Indian deep state, or what you say, their intelligence agencies, they have at times acted in a way to put blame on Pakistan when there is some important international visit taking place. This happened in 2000 when the former President Bill Clinton visited India, and there was an attack back then which resulted in the death of 36 or 37 Sikh in Indian side of Punjab, and India quickly went on to blame Pakistan. But back then, this has been written as part of the records that U.S. assessment was that Pakistan is not involved, and it was the work of some some militants based inside India. Similarly, Pakistan this time around, it has gone one step further and said, we are not involved, and that we want to contest India's claims, and there should be an impartial inquiry, and that's what even public is calling for. That there should be an impartial inquiry. You don't want to involve Pakistan, don't involve Pakistan. There are so many other forums. You can go to the UN. You could go to the UNSC. You have FATF. You have other forums where you can go and make your case, and you can ask Pakistan what you need to ask. Okay. So nobody really here is bothered in terms that Pakistan is involved, but there's no appetite for, let's say, war here in Pakistan. People have just started to come out of a couple of tough financial years. The inflation was, has, sort of, made a lot of difference here to people. And now that the economy is back on track, and they believe that India is trying to undermine Pakistan.
Yeah. Umair, can I just ask you, so India is suspending a vital 1960 treaty that manages water use between the two countries. That treaty has held through, 3 subsequent wars. And I'm just wondering why this time it's different, and how is it being received in Pakistan? Is there a real fear that there could be an escalation beyond the suspending of these really important treaties and could escalate to a military response?
Yeah, so let's take the answer in 2 ways. One is that there's nothing unexpected India has done. So for many years, India has tried to, sort of get out of that treaty unilaterally, and that they have done, by sort of not cooperating with Pakistan in terms of sharing data on what they are building in, on those rivers which belong to Pakistan as part of the treaty. And they've also tried to, reject international institutions intervention, which according to international law is central to this whole idea of the treaty. Be it International Court of Justice, be it World Bank, which is the mediatory, as part of the treaty. So Pakistan has been expecting this move from India for many years, and the last time both countries held meeting to discuss Indus water treaties were almost 3 years ago. So that shows you, what is going on the Indian side. Now let's come to the point. What does it mean for Pakistan? If India were to actually act on it, it would be considered a serious provocation. That has already been conveyed by the Pakistan National Security Committee meeting, which took place after India, made this announcement. And that committee, which makes all the important strategic decisions in Pakistan, be it Pakistan's sovereignty or national security, they have clearly said that any such move would be considered an act of war by Pakistan, and will be dealt with, in simple terms, whatever Pakistan can do, be it militarily, be it diplomatically, be it in any other ways. Pakistan cannot afford to, have its water shut down. It's a country of 250 million people. And 80% of Pakistan agriculture depends on the water that is part of Indus water treaty. And India cannot simply go and say, okay, we are shutting that down, and not expect any retaliation. So we consider it a political move, and then the government considers it a political move, and that India just want to renegotiate some of the terms of the treaty. And by the way, all studies show that India cannot build infrastructure to even block Pakistan's water on the Indus waters rivers. And so it's
Okay.
sort of, you could say, it's more of a rhetoric to calm down the public, not a serious threat in terms of the immediate future.
Right. My question is also regarding the prospects for bilateral engagement between India and Pakistan. Is there any hopes of thaw? Has Islamabad already written off diplomacy under the Modi government, which is now in its 3rd term? Are there diplomatic channels that are open that might realistically lead to de-escalation of the current situation?
So, Melissa, the answer is yes and no. Yes, that one way to begin conversation on that question is for India to start talking about impartial investigation. You don't have to engage with Pakistan. You could take your case to any international forum, which would eventually involve Pakistan. And that is one way to start conversation, if India is to act responsibly. And second, to answer whether any back channel forum currently exists, unfortunately not to the extent that could make a difference. A couple of years ago, we had a senior level back channel between Pakistani military and the Indian national security establishment. But that does not exist anymore. Not after this crisis. And but Pakistan is always open to discussions with India that involve putting on table all the important issues, including the issue of Kashmir, Indus water, and even as Pakistan says, India's involvement of fomenting terror in different parts of Pakistan. Now, what I see, after following the last 2 weeks of, a conversation that Pakistan is having with international partners, is that US has conveyed to both India and Pakistan that you need to start conversation. You need to start, direct communication. That would be the answer. And Pakistan has last week appointed a national security advisor, which is a post vacant for a couple of years, and it's a post that has played an important role, when it comes to India and Pakistan bilateral dialogue, away from public, away from how politicians engage. So, so it's important. It's important because that national security advisor is the also head of Pakistan intelligence agency. So that shows some, there is a seriousness on Pakistan to talk with India.
Right.
But we don't know if India is ready to talk.
Right. Very quickly, can I ask you what you're watching closely for in the coming days that will give you clues as to whether this cycle of escalation retaliation might heighten?
So, a couple of things. One is, so it's been almost 2 weeks now since the attack happened, and India heightened their narrative. They just triggered everything they could immediately after the incident, alleging, implicating Pakistan, and there was expectation of an attack. There has been an expectation of an attack, but it has not happened so far. But Pakistan seems to be prepared for any Indian retaliation. That said, what I've seen in the last couple of days, it seems that India seems to be walking away from that part of its response. I say that because there's a rhetoric shift to punishing Pakistan financially. India has requested formally to IMF to review Pakistan's program that Pakistan is in, and also it has there's no indication of military mobilization. There's no indication of India mobilizing its navy. So all of these things are encouraging. So it tells me that India is sort of stepping back from its very sharper narrative of punishing Pakistan, and also what I believe is that one of the reasons that India has not so far done anything militarily is because international community has not come in India's support. India, in my view, and many others, who are based in Pakistan, was expecting that a lot of countries from EU to US and others will fall behind India, supporting its narrative that Pakistan is involved. But no one has so far said that Pakistan is the reason of the attack. Everyone has called for de-escalation, everyone has called for dialogue, and everyone has said that India should not be jumping so quickly to conclusions. And that's, I think, has shocked India. And the second reason that India may be walking away from escalation is China's role in Pakistan's support. In last crisis of this scale was Malaysia in 2019, and back then there was relatively very, let's say, timid and weak Chinese position on this crisis. But 5 years, if you look ahead 5 years, now China has not just come out strongly. They've said it's part of our interest to defend Pakistan's sovereignty and national security. And don't forget that China is a major stakeholder in Pakistan, and they also control a lot of water that India uses. So I think it's just bit time. A lot of sense has gotten into planners in New Delhi, and I see this de-escalating in the coming days.
Umair, thank you so much for joining us on the show and sharing your analysis. Umair Jamal from the Diplomat there. We're going to take a quick break here and consider this. We'll be back with more. Stay tuned. Hi, welcome back to Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris. Let's continue our discussion about the heightened tensions between India and Pakistan after the deadly attack in Kashmir. Joining me now is Dr. Rahul Mishra, who is Associate Professor at the Center for Indo-Pacific Studies under the School of International Studies at Jawaharlal Nehru University in India. Dr. Rahul, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me. Can you begin by giving us a bit of a sense of how the Indian government is balancing domestic expectations for a very strong response to the attacks versus the risks that come with escalation?
Well, considering the mood in the country at this moment, which is very strong, I mean, not just the strategic community and politicians cutting across party lines supporting a strong response to this attack in Pahalgam, but also common people are voting for this. They're pitching for a very strong response to this attack. So the response is the mood currently in the country is that there should be a very strong response to this attack, and politicians cutting across party line are supporting this idea that government should give a calibrated, strong response that also acts as a deterrent to the terrorist activities supported from across the border. So far, the government has been very restrained, very sensible and careful in responding to the situation, which means that they have not responded immediately. It's a multi-dimensional, calibrated response, which includes both kinetic and non-kinetic responses at the military front, but also economic, diplomatic, non-traditional security responses. So cutting off the economic supplies, cutting off economic ties, diplomatic relations, isolating Pakistan internationally are the steps that the government is taking at the moment. So I believe the current approach of the government is not to act in a hurry, not to respond with anger, but respond to this attack in a careful manner that it sets an example to the non-state actors, to the terrorists who are operating from across the border.
How is the Modi government reacting or responding to calls by Pakistan for an impartial investigation into the attack before any further retaliatory measures are taken?
Well, it seems the government's response at this moment is zero trust, verify first. If I were to put it in one slogan, it is because 2016, when Uri attacks happened, there was no support from Pakistani side for a non-partisan inquiry. When 2019 a terrorist attack happened, at that time also Pakistan did not support it. Even 2008, the Mumbai terror attacks, Pakistan has not supported a fair and free and open inquiry into any of these terror activities. So I think from India's side, the option to exercise an inquiry which is open and transparent with Pakistan's full support is not an option anymore.
Okay. Can I ask you how you are reading the international responses to not just the attack, but to the aftermath of the attack and the heightened tensions that have followed in the past couple of weeks?
Well, there are three initial observations that I have to make. First is that India's diplomatic footwork has increased, whether it is talking to the American leadership, the Secretary of State or the Defense Secretary or the Vice President. Also, the British Foreign Minister, leaders in Saudi Arabia, in UAE, and the neighborhood. So many countries are in talks with India as to how to respond to this. And some major powers have already supported India in its fight against terrorism, including the US, Japan, countries from the Gulf and the Arab world. So India is working on gathering more and more support. The international response also on the second front is that the Americans have advised caution to both India and Pakistan, fearing that Pakistan, being under the leadership of a kind of a very militaristic military general, Munir, and also Shahbaz Sharif, things are a little tricky in dealing with Pakistan. So later this month, in coming weeks, when US and Pakistan have a meeting, I think those issues will be raised. Pakistan, the third point is that the Pakistan leadership is feeling at the moment kind of isolated. Other than China saying that peaceful resolution of this outstanding issue has to be materialized, there is not much support that Pakistan has got. And it has also been trying to reach out to countries in the Gulf and the Arab world, but not much support has been extended, except Turkey, which has said that it will basically expedite export of weapons to Pakistan. So at the diplomatic front, I think Pakistan is getting isolated, which is not good news for it. And it might make Pakistan more desperate to get into a war situation.
Right. I'm curious to know the situation in Kashmir. I mean, since the revocation of Article 370, was it in 2019? It's been about 5-6 years now. I'm wondering whether it has managed to reduce instability in the region, or has the security and political challenges in Kashmir increased and made more complicated for India?
Well, over past 5 years, we've seen that the center-state relation between the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and the central government have normalized, have become cordial, which is also manifested in the meeting yesterday that the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister had with Prime Minister Modi. And both of them are on the same page in dealing with the cross-border terrorism. Also, even though it is not a very happy situation and a good example, but if you look at those who were killed, the victims of this Pahalgam terror attack, it would tell you that tourists are from more than a dozen states of India. So Kashmir as a tourist destination has also emerged very strongly. And people thought that the situation has normalized and there is no fear or nothing to worry about in Kashmir. Mm-hmm. And terrorism has been subsided, has been more or less tackled. So therefore, this attack has shaken the country and its people, and it has also impacted the tourism and hospitality sector in Jammu and Kashmir.
All right. Dr. Rahul, can I get a sense from you about where you think things stand currently? And I know you said that there is still kind of a, waiting to respond or, respond in kind or respond in... let me rephrase that. The Indian government is still taking a measured approach in its response. But what is your sense of where we're at in terms of the risk for escalation? Are we now past the threat of a military response? Are we still thinking about risks that could lead to an escalation of this crisis? What realistically might lead to de-escalation?
So the first part of your question, I think the military option is still on the table. It's just that India's response is not going to be a full-fledged war. It's going to be a more calibrated and systematic surgical strike, which could have 3 or 4 components, 3 or 4 areas of Pakistan where they have been harboring terrorist groups. So that option is still there. In terms of de-escalation, I think we are not going to witness it anytime soon, because the measures taken range from economic economic isolation of Pakistan, cutting off water and trade ties, sending back people, cutting off any interactions, engagement that people had, closing each other's airspace. So these responses tell us that for the situation to de-escalate and eventually normalize, it will take a number of years for us. At the moment, I think the biggest achievement would be to manage the crisis in such a way that India and Pakistan don't land up in a war situation, which again would be very difficult for both the countries, because Pakistan does not have enough ammunition at the moment, because they sold a lot of arms and ammunition to Ukraine through open and the black market. So they have supplies only for 4 days, whereas India is building up its capabilities and currently has arms and ammunition for up to 40 days. So it is going to be an asymmetric war in traditional sense of the term. That makes things very difficult. And therefore, the restraint that India is exercising tells us that perhaps full-fledged war is not an option that India is considering.
Okay, so what then are you watching closely for in the coming days to give you a signal as to whether things might escalate or not?
Well, the first is to see how the Indian leadership takes responds to the situation, in the sense that what steps India takes in coming weeks. That is very important to understand, to comprehend, because there is an element of military preparedness. The Army, Navy, and Air Force chiefs have met the Prime Minister's office and Prime Minister himself. There is also this idea that forces are being deployed and sent to the borders. So that makes things a little tricky on the military side. But also, I am very keen to see how the US responds to the situation, whether US still has that control over Pakistan in making it understand that war is not an option, or nuclear is not an option at all, whether Pakistan listens to the US or not. To what extent Trump and American leadership is able to diffuse this crisis is something that is worth observing. The second is the role of China, because China is, of course, very close to Pakistan, but also India's biggest neighbor, and India and China have, even though asymmetric relationship, both these countries are the biggest neighbors to each other, and their relationship matters in the Indo-Pacific, in the wider Asian context. So how China responds to India-Pakistan escalation and cross-border terrorism attack on India is something that one has to observe. I think the third thing is how the international community in general responds to this, whether FATF is able to put Pakistan back in the grey list, or it is able to make sure that Pakistan does not take any adventurous steps, is something that we have to observe and see how things unfold.
Definitely. Dr. Rahul, thank you so much for sharing some of your analysis with us. I appreciate your time. Dr. Rahul Mishra from JNU in India. That wraps up this episode of Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris, signing off for the evening. Thank you so much for watching, and good night.